very good afternoon. This is my third wishes. But today, sir, we're certainly, I'll just put on my answer. Today, we're certainly very glad to have you around. And of course, we will take every opportunity that we can uh, to actually perhaps, allow us and our audience to know more about the NS in Singapore itself. Now, today, in fact, our theme is what is the value proposition for NS of NS for business itself. Now, I remember those years, I was one of those that really served the longest during my national service years. I actually served 13 years, including my time as a regular and subsequently as an NS man. And I should say that the things that I learned during my NS day, I'm readily able to actually put it into good use in my professional career. Things such as communication, leadership. And at the same time, of course, we do learn things like deployment and logistics. So these are really essential skills that at a very young age that I managed to pick up thanks to the NS initiative by our Ministry of Defense and our Ministry of Home Affairs. So perhaps we'd like to hear from you. In today's context itself, right, are there any upgrading or probably changes or challenges that the NS itself are facing? And perhaps, I think the government are doing a great job in terms of skills upgrading through various initiatives. So perhaps maybe you can share some light with us on some of the initiatives that the ministry or the MINDEF is actually doing. So.
Thanks. I'm getting special treatment because I have this. Yes. Okay. I think part of the answer you have provided through your own personal experience. Maybe one way of looking at it, because the question is what is the value proposition of national service? So I think just now in my remarks, I tried to paint a picture to give the overall context. I think if we were to ask ourselves as citizens, as business people, the same question put another way: what is it that you cannot afford to lose? Right? Because what is your value proposition, right? Why should I buy your thing? So if I were to say, what would be the cost to you if there isn't this thing? So I think it helps us to think. And just now in my remarks, I wanted to say that the basis of even survival and certainly development, certainly success and sustain has got to be built on the basis of peace and stability. Whether you are thinking of bringing up a family, growing a business, developing a career, whichever thing that takes time, you want to be able to do that in a predictable way, in a safe, peaceful, secure environment. If you take yourselves as, let's say, business people or just as citizens. Now, if you were to live in a place and you have, let's say, no choice but to live there, let's say, and that place is insecure and it's either torn apart by internal strife, where inside the country you don't know who to trust, or it is being attacked from the outside and life and limb is being lost that way. How do you even plan for a future, whether of a person, of a family, or of a business? You look at the Ukrainians. 6 weeks ago, they were still having coffee right in the cafes. They do not think that they will get invaded, and then they were. And if you talk to the families who are trying to take shelter in subway tunnels without any idea when that would end, without any idea as to whether they would actually come out alive, then it is a completely different world. Just 6 weeks, 6 weeks. And so you ask yourself, in that kind of a changed environment, which can happen and can happen suddenly. And once you are in that changed situation, you have no idea how are you going to go back to the original. Then is it something that we can afford to lose? And the we could be the individual, and the we could be all of us together. So the first proposition we think we want to put forth to everybody is that nothing is guaranteed to anybody in this world ever. And if we are in a good place now, Singapore, then it is here because of the joint efforts of everybody through the generations. And I think we owe it to all that effort, and we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the generations to come to not just let it disappear. And there is a way, and that way is that we are resolved to continue to work together and put in our individual effort and our collective effort to make sure that the peace, the stability can endure. Knowing that the world is not necessarily a very nice place that will always give you chance because you are small. And therefore, this whole idea that how do we then can do it in a way that whatever the world, you referred to the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, ambiguous. What is the C? Complex. Yeah. So this is the world that we are in, and but it's not a reason for despair. It's a realistic look at what the world is, and it basically tells us that what we have been doing is on the right track, and that there is a way to secure ourselves, make friends internationally, but be strong. And it's almost like I don't know whether there are bankers here, but I hear this from somebody else, so forgive me. They said that when you're strong, then the banks will want to offer you loans. So be strong. So that's one proposition. Now the other thing is that this is talking at the national level, right? The country and all that. But as an individual, I give you 2 years of my life, so that cost me something. And after that, there's some more ICT. See, that cost me something. And then as an employer, I says, I know you talk about that. I enjoy your stability to do my business. Yes. But I pay the person for the whole year, but then 2 weeks in a year, that person is not really directly under my use. So there is a certain cost to me. I know the payback is in the overall stability and all that. So the way we look at it is this: minimize the cost to the individual and the cost to the businesses. So how? So I think as those of us who might have served in earlier years will recall, it used to be 2.5 years. So it's now 2. There's no magic to it. But what it means is that it's not something that somebody just decided, right? 2.5 sounds like a good number, put it in, and then whatever happens in the world, right? Whatever happens to your technology, whatever happens, it's 2.5. So it's not like that. So you can see and you can have the confidence that in Singapore, we look at the situation, we understand that the cost that actually imposes on people as they make the sacrifice and the contribution for themselves, for their families, for their future, but it is a sacrifice. And try to, where it is possible, right, better organize ourselves, tap the technology and so on, and keep it to just what is necessary. And that also then leads to this question of use of technology. Because actually you'll be wondering, right, so our birth rates have been falling and we are saying that we don't have enough babies, which is true. So if you don't have enough babies, then you're going to reduce your NS period. So how do you keep up that capability to be able to defend? And I think a lot of it has got to do with the way you organize, encourage that esprit de corps, that sense of unity. That's on the human part, but on the technology part, on the systems part, on the equipment part, on the training part, you are always improving. And if you can do that, basically you become more productive and you can do more with fewer. We wish we can have more, but how many babies are born essentially would, in this year, will determine, roughly speaking, this will determine what is the size of your NS cohort 18 years from now, right? So this is something that we know you can project, and then you have got to find different ways to make up for your challenge in terms of numbers. And as you do so, you want to make sure that the value that people see when they have to join you, even 2 years, what do they see? How are they treated? What do they learn? What they learn, does it help them in terms of, let's say, civilian jobs, at least in certain key sectors that are doing very healthy in terms of their prospects? If they are able to develop their civilian careers and they want to come back to they are recalled, right? So is there a better way to use their time when they're doing the ICT compared to, let's say, what they were training in the full-time NS? So we have been exercising some of these, not only flexibility, but purposely going to look for these sort of expertise, psychologists, lawyers, and so on, and see where we need and where they have the expertise, we actually better deploy. So it is minimize the pain, maximize the gain, from the person through to the employer, through to the industry, through to the country. There are many details, but that's the thing. So basically, it's take nobody for granted. So when we, for example, go to Parliament and we say on certain landmark years, then we say that we want to particularly recognize, and then we have some goodies, right, and so on that we present to our NS men. That is a sincere token of appreciation, but in no way are we saying that, oh, your sacrifice is just worth this, worth much more. But at the same time, each and every one of us know that it is not just a pure sacrifice that you are making for the country, because it is only when there is a country that there is you.
Very well said, SMS Heng. At this time, I would like to quote what I learned from Professor Hui during the lessons that we had that I was with him. He said something, 没有家哪有国，所以国家的存在. So in other words, without a country, how can you have a proper home? So
没有国哪有家？
没有家，对，
没有国
我就没有家。Sorry, the other way around. Prof 不要给我扣分。And as I was saying, I heard something from you very interesting, lessen the pain, maximize the gain, which is something that you said early on. So I was hoping for a co-relationship, between the shorten of NS time from 2.5 years to 2 years, so that they can start their family life cycle much earlier and thereby contribute to the population itself. So this is something that we hope, we can realize. And at the same time, I would like to quote Keping Taka. Keping Taka, I remember I was looking at your Facebook when your son went to NS, right? You are very proud parents. You was writing all the good things about NS itself. So I think the mindset has changed over the years. I think the very initial years of NS itself, I think a lot of them are very worried. Their parents are worrying parents when they get into NS. But in today's context, I think the NS men are very well taken care of. At the same time, their health and the trainings, it actually really has a large part to play in terms of inculcating the leadership that would be very much needed in a private organization itself. So I think that is a change in terms of the paradigm with the parents itself of the early years of NS men and the current NS men itself. Okay, so I certainly, as a business owner, I can appreciate the country's stability as a contribution towards our business growth. Okay, so enough of me saying. I would like to open up the questions to the floor itself for our senior ministers. So anyone from the floor would like to ask any questions, please? Someone from the floor? Don't worry, we won't penalize you for any questions asked. Okay, so ask something that's relevant. Maybe senior ministers, can I ask you another question? Because I myself, I'm a business owner. So every time I do have mere employees that will go for ICT training. In today's context, they are always very excited. So I can just quote one of my staff waiter, which is just there. Every time before he get on into an ICT or reservist training, right, he will be very excited approaching me. He will be saying that, sir, boss, I'm going for my in-camp training. And then the next thing I'll ask him is, so how long? Then he said, 2 weeks, okay, by all means go. So that 2 weeks itself, in Chinese, Prof, 我跟你学了很多华文，小别胜新婚。Little absence makes the heart fonder. So when he came back to the company itself, we actually welcomed him with embrace, with wide arms itself. And we did check with him, what did you actually learn during your NS? So besides losing weight, I think he learned a lot in terms of deployment, leadership skill. So this is something that it's really being put into good use in our organization today. Okay. So I think on that note, on behalf of the business committee, I would like to thank Senior Minister of State for Defense, Mr. Heng Chee, for doing a great job in helping our NS men itself. So, sir, please.
No, I think this is really it's a two-way, it's a do together. You will know that our parents of our enlistees, compared to the parents of the first batch, let's say, of national servicemen, in those days, up they go the 3-tonner, right? You really don't even know which camp they went to, right? It was and it was a different feeling, right? Today I think you're invited to try out the food, tour the bunk. I don't know what COVID did to that, but we certainly, that has been the case. Now, essentially, and I think the food has improved. So, but all that, I will say that really shows two things. Number one is that, when MINDEF SAF says that we put in effort, we are not saying that we are perfect, right? Far from it, but we really do put in effort, sincerely so. Then at the same time, it is not a one-sided thing. So it is not something that we sort of sit in office and think that what is good for our soldiers and then let's do it. I hope they appreciate. We have opened up many channels of communications that we actually encourage participation and feedback from our soldiers, whether it be on professional subjects or other subjects. So for example, safety is very important, and we actually encourage our soldiers, sailors, airmen to proactively report what they see as hazards, as risks, as near misses, and so on, so that we can tackle all those and look after one another. If you see your fellow soldiers not feeling well and the supervisor hasn't seen it yet, bring it up, because none of us wants to see a bad thing happen and then after that either try to dodge and point fingers. It's not good. So we work together and we appreciate all this feedback that comes through for the common good. Even the food, I say, that has improved, and they do surveys, They do surveys. So what SAF does is to say that they want to ensure that our soldiers, because they have to do training, therefore you must make sure that they get the correct nutrition. Then the question is, what sort of food is then given to our soldiers to make them not only fill the stomachs up, but actually able to get the nutrition that is needed. But at the same time, it doesn't mean to say that just because your intention is good, that the food is well received, you see. So you continue to take the feedback. So it will be, I quote these examples because some of them has got to do with military subjects. Some of them has got to do with like equipment failure or actually safety hazards. Some of them has got to do with what I call supporting or hygiene factors, right? Like the quality of the food and all that. So in different ways, this is a do together. In fact, the entire national service is a do together. Correct? Because we do not have enough people, unlike some other countries, to have a huge professional armed force. Because if you do it that way, then you don't have an economy. Correct? But you just have an economy with an armed force, then this won't be Singapore anymore. So that's why we have to do it by a national service, which if you think about it, it's a gigantic potluck applied to defense. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I think yes. Okay, sure. Sure, Dr. Roger Lau, our Vice President, would like to have a question.
Minister, there have been some talk about getting a female to serve national service recently. What is your view on getting my granddaughter to serve national service?
Thank you, Roger. Thank you. What's your view as a grandfather? Okay. So you see, first of all, just in case anybody will be thinking, hey, why don't you have women in defense? The answer is we have women in defense. I just put it correctly. So first of all, we welcome for the regular force applicants that both male and female, right? And we are very happy that through the years, the pipeline of women choosing to join the SAF as regulars have strengthened, and so has the quality. And if you look at many of our award winners, in fact, they are female, and on an equal basis in terms of their class and all, many of them win awards fair and square, not because you need a certain quota for women or anything like that, and therefore prove their abilities. Okay, so I just wanted to put it across so that there's no misunderstanding that the SAF only welcomes men. Of course, the other one is the volunteer corps. Now, then, in terms of why don't you recruit everybody, right? To be fair to the men, you recruit everybody. So just now when I was trying to explain that the first thing that you try to do is, what is your purpose? What's the whole thing about? Is it about equal treatment, or is it about making sure that this country can survive in a secure way? Then I think when it comes to the defense of Singapore, my view is that the basic requirement is that Singapore must be able to survive and be secure. Not so much about whether it is equal or not equal first. So that one must be fulfilled first. And then when you say that when that one has to be fulfilled, now how do you fulfill it in the way that would that would meet your requirements for defense, and at the same time not overdo it until you become a drag on some other part of Singapore as a country, such as our economy. So first off, you enlist the men and say whether or not it is enough or not. And even then you say that, okay, you start off with 2.5 years and you see whether or not you can reduce the opportunity cost for them. So for women, I will say we don't have a mental block. Sorry. Okay. So I just wanted to say that we do not in MINDEF SAF, we do not have a mental block to say that somehow or rather we are ideologically opposed to having women. As I explained, we welcome women, first of all, to join us as regulars. Secondly, we want to be able to execute an effective defense of this country while minimizing the overall cost to this country, both men and women. Okay. And thirdly, we will never say never to anything forever, because you never know the circumstances. For example, so your birth rates are coming down, but at the same time, technological possibilities are going up. And at the same time, where do you fight your wars? What sort of wars are you fighting? Is it just tanks, rockets, fighter planes? Is it cyber war? Is it, and if it is cyber war, is it only for men? And so on and so forth. So even the landscape in which you have to defend is changing. So that is why we keep an open mind. So we have never said that we will never ever enlist beyond the men. But we have also said that we don't do things just to look equal. Can you imagine that you just reverse it, all right? Many families with their sons enlisted, right? To say that can you enlist him a bit earlier so that he can ORD so that he doesn't impinge into his university start date and all that. In other words, the individuals and the families continue to be very sensitive about, okay, this is my duty as a citizen, I will do it, but at the same time, can you not drag it more than necessary, correct? So I think they will be equally concerned that we don't do that to their girls unnecessarily.
Thank you, SMS, for clarifying the facts. Sir, on behalf of Dr. Roger Lau, I would like to say that you'll be preparing your granddaughter, he's a proud grandfather, for the NS if being needed in the future itself. So, Dr. Roger Lau.
Or please join us as a regular.
Yes, please.
Yes, that's available. Yes, already.
Okay, so I do have a last question over here as a business owner itself. So we always hear that, ask not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for your country itself. So as a business owner, do you find that our current business scenarios on supporting the NS, do you think it's sufficient, or is there anything more that we can do as a business community itself, sir?
We appreciate very much the support that the business community has given to national service in Singapore. I mean, frankly speaking, as I said, you can pass laws and so on, but if the business community, businesses big and small in different industries, if they find that the way you are doing it makes it so unfair, so undoable from the business angle, then their support cannot be sustained. So it takes two hands to clap. We do our best, but at the same time, we do not for a moment take the support of the business community for granted. That said, your question is, okay, so after all these years, these are the things that you all have been doing. So what more can you do in order to further strengthen it? Well, I think this one, Mr. Tony Chew, my co-chair on the council, is in a much better position to really speak on this part about the business owners and how we are encouraging this. But certainly at the council, our council members, for example, are certainly extremely on the ball in terms of the subgroups that they lead, and they work their networks in order to, first of all, send out the message to try to explain some of the things that we have been discussing this afternoon and more, and also to encourage more companies, organizations to not only know but take practical steps to better support the NS men, such as the ones that you mentioned. And just last week we also presented the Total Defense Awards, and you can go on our Facebook page and you can watch the video, which basically showcases many examples of how companies, bosses, family members have supported in very practical ways when their people need to go on an NS, how colleagues would step forward to cover for one another in the work so that you are able to do this, and so on. So, and your own example, as you cited just now, I think is very much appreciated, not only by your staff, but certainly by MINDEF SAF. So is every company like that? Not quite yet. So this means that we have to continue our efforts. We cannot just say that you company, you're operating in Singapore, you should know. That would be to take you for granted. That's not the attitude that we take. So we continue to mount our efforts and our outreach. Yeah.
Thank you, SMS Heng Chee for his very enlightening in terms of.
Sorry, I think I see a hand.
Yes, do we have someone from the floor? Yes, sir. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Minister. Good afternoon, Mr. Roger. I'd like to check. So, like for my business, we are doing with traditional food. So most of the people I hire, right, are mostly elderlies. Then, if for a company with no NS men, how else can we contribute to like NS Mark? I do see after talking to the assistant director that it's a very good program for NS. So, but like in my case, if I have no NS men, then how else can we contribute to this NS program?
how long has your business been around?
We have been around since 1983. About 30 plus years.
Okay. So in the beginning, you had NS men.
Myself?
Okay.
I
No,
just
no,
finished
no.
my
No,
10-year cycle.
sorry. The reason I ask is because, so, okay, by now it's 30, 40 years, right? So I'm very, very sure, sir, that you have every intention that the company should continue to operate well for at least an equal amount of time into the future,
Definitely.
correct? And then on that basis, you will know that not all your current employees are necessarily going to be on that same journey with you in 40 years from now, which means to say that current employees is one thing, but at the same time, I'm very, very sure in the course of time, you will also recruit, right? So I do not know what are your recruitment policies, but it could very well be that one day you might actually have some people in your workforce who might be NS men. And so
I think my question will be a little bit similar to Mr. Roger. So, apart from being in, if there is no NS men, what other areas can companies in Singapore contribute to?
yes, so that's number one. In time to come, I hope that your workforce gets a suitable amount of refreshing and so on, and that might then make you a direct employer of some NS men, in which case then some of these best practices. But in the meantime, just because you don't have a direct employee, doesn't mean that as your business you cannot support national service. You see, it's just like saying that if I don't have children, if I don't have a kid of my own, I cannot love children. It's not quite like that, right? So therefore, every year when we come to the celebrating national service, many businesses step forward in different ways, partly to showcase their goods and services, but certainly more than that, to actually express solidarity and use their example to encourage other businesses to do likewise. So there are direct and indirect benefits and direct and indirect contributions. You see, so the direct contributions is I have a son. Okay, I myself am an NS man. My direct employee is an NS man. So those are quite obvious direct. The indirect one is to say, even if I don't have all these, okay, even if I'm not married, even if all my children are daughters, right, even if all my employees are not NS liable now, does it mean to say that it doesn't matter whether or not NS happens in Singapore properly? I know your answer will be no, of course it's important. Then the question is, how can I, even though I'm not a direct contributor to the NS manpower at this moment, how can I still stand together with all the other people who wants to say and make the point that we will support national service because it is for our common good. It is for our common good. From a business angle, certainly I think, sir, you would agree with the stability point, because I mean, whatever you might be producing, you also need a stable environment in which your customers can come and buy your goods and so on, right? And fellow businesses. So that one is actually quite clear. So I know that you're not making the point about what is your proposition to businesses, but rather how businesses, if they don't have a direct, immediate contribution, how can they still help, right? So yeah, that's right. So if you want to grant benefits to our NS men, please do so, and my colleagues will be more than happy to be in touch. If you want to give moral support together with the other businesses, you are most welcome as well. If you want to help us share our messages through your chat groups, and all that, you are most welcome.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ministers. And sir, I hear that you're from food business industry. Yeah, perhaps you can start looking into contribution to our NS from your industry itself, like what Senior Minister said. Start populating, and if you want to look for contributions, I think we know who to go to. And on top of that, I would like to ask you, how many kids or how many children do you have? 0. There you are. You need to contribute to the NS by being more productive. We're looking at 20 years from now. Yeah. Okay. Any questions from the floor, please? Okay, so if there are none, I would like to really please help me to give a warm round of applause
Thank
to
you.
our Senior
Thank you.
Minister
No,
of
thank
State
you.
Defence,
Thank you, everybody. Thank
Mr.
you.
Heng, Chee for gracing our events today, and thank you for coming. Please stay around. Definitely, you can be here for networking. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.